Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is all about products that I regret buying and disappointing products. Every time I buy a new product that I really don't like, I just throw it into this big box here, and I think I finally have enough products to make a whole video. But before I get into it, I just wanted to say that even though I may not like a specific product, that doesn't mean that I don't like the brand. In fact, there's quite a few products in this box where I love the brand, it's just that specific product. And also, what works for me may not work for you, and what works for you may not work for me, and vice versa, if that makes sense, because everyone's skin type is different, everyone has different tastes and preferences and all the rest of it. So I'm going to jump straight into this video and show you what's in my box. I'm going to start off with the one product that I really don't like, and I really wanted to like this. In fact, I gave it 4 or 5 goes and it just isn't for me. This is the NARS All Day Luminous Weightless Foundation, and I have this in the shade Barcelona. First of all, I just feel like all NARS foundations are a bit hit and miss for me when it comes to shade matching. I've always picked up the wrong shade. I'm not sure why that is, and although Barcelona is a pretty good match, it is a touch too pale, and I feel like the next shade up, I can't remember the name of it, is too dark. So in an ideal world, I'd have 2 and mix them, but I really can't be dealing with all that. But this isn't about the shade at all, I'm talking about the actual formula itself. I feel like this is actually the worst foundation I have ever bought. I actually don't know what's wrong with it. My skin has never looked so bad. If you follow me on Snapchat, you will have seen that 2 days ago I decided to give this one last go, and I put it on. I thought it looked okay. I went out for the whole day. Came back home, I looked in the mirror and I was so shocked. This foundation highlights every single blemish, every mark, every spot, every line, every wrinkle, just stuff that you didn't even know you had on your face, and I don't know how it does that. I also noticed that it was just sitting in my fine lines here, and that's something that never ever happens to me. I feel like my lines are just fine lines, they're not that deep, so I've never had that problem with any other foundation ever before, and this just makes my skin look the worst it's ever looked. I have absolutely no idea what's in the foundation that makes it do that, but I just really don't like it. The other thing to point out is that personally I find the coverage of that foundation a little bit too thick for me. I just don't like to feel the foundation on my skin. I don't want it sitting on my skin. I just want to feel like I've got nothing on, and with this foundation I could really feel it on my skin. In fact, it looked cakey. I just really wasn't a fan. Moving on to another foundation that I was also disappointed by. This is the MAC Studio Sculpt foundation in the shade NC42. I actually used to wear this foundation about 5 to 10 years ago and I loved it. But again, I just find that the formula is a little bit too thick. It just doesn't quite sit right on my skin. It feels too heavy. I can definitely feel it on my skin. I just find that there's something quite off about this foundation. It isn't the same. Maybe they've changed the formula from when I used to wear it. I just don't like the feeling of it on my skin. It just feels really cakey, and that's something that I'm really not used to. Moving on to my favourite subject, correctors and concealers. I could probably make an hour-long video on this topic, so I'm not going to go into every single corrector that's disappointed me because nobody really wants to see that. I just want to talk about the most hyped one, I feel. This is the LA Girl Pro Conceal in the shade Orange. This is actually a corrector, and honestly, I've seen so many videos of people using this. Oh, also, the other thing I don't like about these is they're very watery. I don't know why that is. They just squirt out loads of water. The concealers do that too. I'm just not a fan. But as I was saying, this is a shade of it, and I have watched so many videos of people with all sorts of skin tones using this corrector, and I have absolutely no idea how they do it. Some people layer it on like they're icing a cake. In fact, 30% of their face will be covered in corrector. Other people use the tiniest amount and just literally use it where they need it. And I have tried every single possible way of using it. In fact, I've probably only got half a tube left here, but for some reason it just doesn't work on me. I put it on and then I go over the top with my normal concealer, and for some weird reason you can always see an orange cast all underneath my eyes. I have absolutely no idea why that is. The only thing I could probably put it down to is maybe people go over it with a really full coverage foundation and then their concealer, or their concealer's a lot fuller coverage, but for some reason this just doesn't work for me because this shade is way too bright. I mean, my Bobbi brand corrector is nowhere near this shade, and that one just works really well for me, so I was very disappointed by this one. But equally, I was also disappointed by their normal concealers. I've got these in about 4 different shades. These are the ones I use for contouring and highlighting. I've also tried them underneath the eyes, but again, I just feel like they're way too thick for under the eye area. The shade match is completely off for me, but I'm not going to go into that today. I just find them so thick and creamy, and they're really hard to blend as well. So maybe I should just stay away from thick, full coverage products. My next disappointing product are these two mini Hourglass liquid lipsticks. I don't even know if you can buy these in the UK. I actually bought these before liquid lipsticks were a thing, and to be honest, I've had these since maybe October 2014. So I definitely bought them before liquid lipsticks were a thing, and I used to like them at the time, but now since trying loads of other brands, I can honestly say that these are probably the worst ones I've tried. I would show you, but I think mine have gone off because they are pretty old. They're really sticky, the coverage isn't great, I don't like the wand applicator, and they feel very uncomfortable on the lips. This is the shade Icon, by the way. I really like the shade, but they just don't last long at all. Yeah, these have definitely gone off. This is the shade Canvas. The applicator is too flexible, but I feel like I only need to have one drink of water and the lipstick just starts to crack and it just looks awful, especially when you're wearing a bold colour. So I really don't like these, and in fact I think it's probably time to put them in the bin. My next set of products I'm kind of on the fence about, and it did take me quite a long time to decide whether I should put them in this video or not, but I did come to the conclusion that they are actually disappointing, and these are the NYX Soft Matte Lip Creams. I know when I first bought them I wrote a whole blog post on them about how I loved them, and you know what, I have to say they are actually good products, but there's just something about the formula or the packaging if you don't use them for a while. I haven't used mine for at least a couple of months, and they just feel really dry. It hardly feels like there's any product in there. It just feels like it's dried up. I don't know what it is, so that actually took me 4 swipes just to get this much product out, so I definitely feel like they're drying up. And even though I bought all 4 of mine on the same day, and they sit in the same place on my shelf, I've done nothing different to any of them. I find that the formula really varies depending on which lipstick you pick up. So some of them are good, some of them are not so good. I'm actually wearing the shade Copenhagen on my lips today, and I can see that it has faded down quite a lot since I applied it. I had to dip my wand in 3 or 4 times just to get this much coverage. So they're not great, they're a bit hit and miss. If I had to pick my favourite range of the NYX liquid lipsticks, the liquid Suede, hands down, are my favourite. I also have one from their lingerie shade, and unfortunately this is also in my disappointing pile. I have this in the shade Teddy, and I actually only bought it in May, so it's been 4 months. I only remember that because I bought it when I was in Madrid, and aside from only swatching it when I first bought it, I actually went to put it on for the first time ever last week. In fact, I was actually wearing it on my last video, so I'll link that down below if you want to see it. But if you see this, when I open it up, it's completely dry. There's no product that comes out of it whatsoever. This is what it looks like when I swatch it. It's kind of very streaky. It did have some bits in it when I tried it out last week, and I literally had to wiggle my brush round just to try and scrape anything off the sides, and it just doesn't work. Okay, so now I've just managed to get some product out, which is just typical, but honestly, it does feel like it's dried up. I've just swatched it here again, so it definitely does feel like it's dried up. I'm really not a fan of that range, so I don't think I'll be rushing out to buy any more. I feel the need to point out at this stage that I don't hate NYX, there just happens to be quite a lot of NYX in this box. I don't actually know why, because I think it's a great brand and I do have some products that I completely love. But my next one is their HD Studio Finishing Powder. I had really high hopes for this powder just because it's HD, it's translucent, it's affordable, I don't know. And honestly, it's so finely milled. Every time you open the lid, there's a big cloud of dust that goes everywhere, which is fine, that's not a problem. But the thing that I don't like about it is that it's not translucent. I think all translucent powders are actually white in colour, but they're supposed to be translucent. But this one leaves a grey cast over my face, so it just makes me look like my foundation doesn't match, it makes me look quite ill. It just doesn't work for me. I've tried using it to set my concealer underneath my eyes, but again, the same thing always happens. I always end up with darker dark circles, so I'm really not a fan. Next, I've got these Body Shop Darkening Drops. I was so disappointed by these. These were sold out for the longest time ever. I went into every single Body Shop that I passed, and nobody ever had them because there was such a huge hype around it. And eventually, when I finally picked up a bottle, I honestly thought this could be the answer to all my foundation problems. Everything is always too pale for me, and I was so happy thinking I'd picked up a magic product, but no. This is just so bad, so bad. This is just terrible. The undertone is completely off. It's so red and it's just way too dark, which means that it doesn't work for my skin. I've tried using just the tiniest amount ever and mixing it with loads of foundation, but it just leaves my skin looking so muddy and it's just too dark. It just doesn't do anything. I feel like this might be okay on people with very dark skin, but for me, I just feel like it's missing a middle shade. They've got a light and they've got a dark. Maybe they need like a golden one to add to the mix because that might work a lot better. Moving on to my final two disappointing products, and these are the Dior limited edition Diorific matte lipsticks. They're not matte. This is why I'm really disappointed. These were the first two bits I ever bought from Dior in terms of makeup, and they're just not matte. I don't understand. I'm going to put it over my existing lipstick just because this one's fading and they're quite similar in tone. So here we go, this is the shade True Blonde. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. And as you can see, it's just not matte. It's got a slight sheen to it. Now I actually bought these at the airport and I swatched them on the back of my hand and I was like, oh, they're not matte. And the lady was like, oh no, just give it some time. It does dry down to a matte finish. So of course I just believed her, because like I said, they were limited edition and they were sold out in stores, but there was just a few hanging around in duty free. So I bought them, and of course I realised they're not matte. And then one day I was in Selfridges and I spotted them, and I asked the lady and I was like, how can they say matte lipsticks when they're really not matte at all? And she said, oh, Dior don't do matte lipsticks. We call them matte, but they're actually semi-matte, so they all dry down like this. So I was very disappointed because, you know me, 99% of the lipsticks I own and wear are matte. And this to me just isn't. I wore it out one day and literally it was all around my face because I'm such a messy person. I feel like I touch my mouth quite a lot. And I also don't wear a lot of bold lipsticks and everything I wear is matte, so I don't normally have to worry about that. But I just look so awful with lipsticks smeared everywhere, so not a fan. So yeah, although the packaging may look pretty, I was so not impressed with my actual lipsticks. But that concludes my disappointing products. Do leave me a comment down below if you've tried any of these products and let me know what you think of them, because like I said, what doesn't work for me may very well work for you. I really hope you found this video helpful. Please hit that subscribe button before you go and give this video a thumbs up. But thank you for watching and I'll see you next time. Bye!